Good afternoon in Belgium and good morning in Mexico. Welcome to our webinar, Opportunities in the Life Sciences and Health Sector in Mexico. I am Wim van Kouteren and since 6 years and a half, the head of the Office of Flanders Investment and Trade in Mexico City. And I'm really delighted to see that there is considerable interest in Flanders and Belgium in the subject of our webinar today. And thank you all for participating. I just want to remind you the program of today. After my intervention, Mr. Jaime Castro Palma of QBD Group will present a review of opportunities and challenges in the healthcare and life sciences sector in Mexico. Our second presenter from Mexico is Mr. Ignace Tuypens, who will share his experience as a Flemish entrepreneur in a life sciences company here in Mexico. Our third speaker is Mr. Johan Lecoq, who will present the activities of Medvia. After these four presentations, there will be room for Q&A. And before I start, I already want to express my gratitude for the three external speakers of today. Thank you very much for your collaboration. But before we dive into the life sciences and health sector of Mexico, I wanted to present to you some economic facts about Mexico and some recent economic trends, so you can better understand in which economic environment projects in the Mexican life sciences and health sector take place. In the second part, I also want to explain to you why we are organizing this event and why we are focusing on this particular sector. Mexico has one of the biggest economies in the world. It now has the 11th largest economy worldwide, according to the IMF. According to the World Bank, it is considered an upper middle income country, just like countries as Brazil, China, Thailand, Turkey, and South Africa. In this slide, you can see some strengths and weaknesses about the Mexican economy. The fact that Mexico is so close to the US is definitely a plus. For example, technology that is developed in the US quickly finds its way to Mexico. Just to give an example, 32% of Mexican imports of medical equipment, instruments, disposable and dental products come from the US. Also, US tech companies are very active in Mexico. For example, Mexico was one of the first countries outside of the US where the Uber app was launched already back in 2013. Other advantages of this proximity to the US is the following. Mexico receives each year millions of tourists from the US and also medical tourists. And Mexicans who live in the US, they send each year billions of dollars to family and friends in Mexico. And in this way, they support the Mexican economy. Since 1994, Mexico has a free trade agreement with the US and Canada, which was first called NAFTA, and since a couple of years has been replaced by the USMCA, US-Mexico-Canada agreement. NAFTA and USMCA have been very beneficial to Mexico, since Mexico has been able to attract a lot of industrial investment. And companies opted for Mexico because of its relative low labor cost, its relative good infrastructure, and of course, its duty-free access to the North American market. For the US, Mexico is the #1 foreign trade partner. But you can see on the right that Mexico and the Mexican economy also faces some challenges. This high dependency of the US is, of course, also a risk. For example, 80% of Mexican exports go to the US. So you can imagine if something happens in the US, they feel those repercussions here in Mexico. Some areas in Mexico are plagued by criminality and insecurity. So if you as a company own physical assets in the country, you definitely need a security strategy. You can also see that Mexico has a narrow tax base because a lot of the economy in Mexico is informal. you can also see that health is mentioned as a weakness, as an important general weakness. The OECD, of which Mexico is a member, recently reported in its report Health Panorama 2023 that Mexico has the worst health coverage of all 38 OECD countries, with only 72% of basic health needs covered. Now, what about the European Union and Mexico trade relations? Well, the European Union and Mexico also have a free trade agreement in place already since the year 2000. This means that almost all healthcare products and medical products from Europe and Belgium can be imported in Mexico duty-free. In 2018, Mexico and the European Union, they reached a new agreement for an update of this current trade agreement, which is from the year 2000, so it needed an update. And this update means, for example, that all remaining import duties for certain food products will be gradually eliminated. Now, this updated agreement has to be ratified by Mexico and by all the EU member states, and we need that ratification as soon as possible, because in this table you can see that the European Union only supplies 8% in total of all goods and products that Mexico imports. In the same table you can see that the USA is by far the largest foreign supplier to Mexico, followed by China and other Asian countries. So if you want to become active in Mexico, you will not have, you not only have to take into account local Mexican competitors, domestic competitors, but also American, Asian, and European competitors. So the Mexican market is a competitive market, a very competitive market, since Mexico is very open for foreign trade. And Mexico has foreign trade, free trade agreements with more than 50 countries. Now, what are the midterm and long-term prospects of Mexico? Well, they are quite positive. And this is because Mexico has clearly emerged as one of the winners of the current US-China conflict. I think for the last decades, China was the main foreign trade partner for Mexico. But since last year, Mexico has overtaken this position. And why? Because Mexico has attracted a lot of nearshoring investment. Nearshoring is, of course, the trend by which companies want to have their supply chain closer to their headquarters and their customer base, thereby reducing the risks. The medical devices industry in Mexico also profits from this nearshoring trend and has recently attracted considerable investments. There are 2,000 companies in Mexico that manufacture medical devices, and an important part of this production is exported to the US. So the economic growth prospects of Mexico, they are definitely better than, for example, the euro area. You can see here that in 2023 and 2024, the economic growth rate in Mexico will be significantly higher than in the euro area, according to the IMF. Now, Mexico has been able to attract foreign and domestic investment because of its prudent fiscal policy and also its stable currency. And here you can see that in the last couple of years, the Mexican peso has been considerably appreciating against the euro. So this means that for Mexican importers and Mexican clients, it is cheaper to import health products and medical technology from Europe than a couple of years ago. How does Credendo, the Belgian credit insurance company, assesses the risk of international trade transactions or investments in Mexico? Well, according to Credendo, the medium and long-term political risk is considered to be 3, which is the same level as countries like India and Saudi Arabia. The business environment risk, you can see, is D, but this is the same level than in Belgium. And the risk of currency inconvertibility and the risk of transfer restrictions is 3, which is the same level as countries like India, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. So, in spite of some risks, long-term prospects in Mexico are positive. And some studies, like, for example, the study of PwC, predict that by the year 2050, Mexico will be part of the 10 largest economies in the world. So the long-term prospects of Mexico are positive. And now I want to give you some explanations on why we are focusing on the healthcare sector and the life sciences sector in Mexico. Well, we do this webinar and we focus on this sector because other European countries are also convinced of the many opportunities this sector offers for their companies. And that is why, for example, Business France, which is the official French export promotion agency, they organize each year in Mexico the French Healthcare Days, an event in which they promote new French technology in the life sciences and health sector. The Netherlands is also convinced about the many opportunities this sector offers. And that is why they are planning to organize an economic mission to Mexico that focuses on life sciences and health. And according to the Dutch, the most promising subsectors are digital care solutions, e-health, and products for the care of the elderly. Because also in Mexico, the population of Mexico that is 65 and plus is projected to triplicate by the year 2050 and reach 30 million persons. At the moment, the current Mexican population is 126 million people. The US also considers the Mexican market for healthcare products and services as a leading sector for US exports and investment. And the Americans point out that there are opportunities both in the public healthcare institutions, but also in the private hospital sector of Mexico. This private hospital sector is dominated by private health services provider companies such as Grupo Empresarial Angeles, Star Médica, and Centro Médico ABC. Now, are there already companies from Belgium active in the healthcare and life sciences sector in Mexico? Well, yes, and in the following slide, I want to give you some examples. Agfa Healthcare, specialized in medical imaging IT, has an office in Mexico City. Specialty chemicals provider Azelis, which is headquartered in Antwerp, provides pharmaceutical ingredients in Mexico. Another Antwerp headquartered company, Manuchar, delivers raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry in Mexico. Few people know that the first pharmaceutical plant of Janssen Pharmaceutica, which today is Johnson & Johnson, the first pharmaceutical plant of Janssen Pharmaceutica outside of Europe was built in Puebla, Mexico, and was inaugurated already in 1980. Ontex distribute products for adult care in Mexico. There is also a service provider from Flanders active in Mexico, QBD Group, and our next speaker, Jaime Castro, is the Director General of QBD Mexico, and he will certainly explain what kind of services his company can offer for Belgian companies that want to enter this market. Belgian pharmaceutical company UCB also has an important presence in Mexico. And Walloon medical equipment manufacturer Ion Beam Applications, or IBA, has already provided radiation therapy to both public and private hospitals in Mexico. So you can see that already many Belgian companies are active in Mexico, and hopefully this webinar will help to attract new Belgian companies in this sector. So if you want to explore new opportunities in Mexico, do not hesitate to contact our office in Mexico. Thank you. So I now want to introduce our speakers from Mexico. The first speaker is Mr. Jaime Castro Palma, who is the Director General of QBD Mexico. Mr. Castro is chemical pharmaceutical biologist with more than 25 years experience in the pharmaceutical and medical devices industry and in warehousing and logistics of the healthcare sector. He is also the actual Vice President of ISB Mexico, which is the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering. He is also the founder of the first school of critical thinking for regulatory compliance in healthcare industries in Mexico, and he is a regular speaker at pharma and healthcare events in Mexico. Please, Jaime, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wim. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be with you. Let me share my screen. Allow me a minute. There is. Okay, everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, my intention with this little talk is to talk about how are the opportunities and challenges that you will face in Mexico if you wanted to put your business here in our country. Well, the agenda for this presentation is very short. We will talk about how is the healthcare industry in Mexico. Bim brings many facts and numbers and figures about the industry in Mexico, and we'll just take a little a brief view of this. Then we will talk about how I see the opportunities in Mexico, the challenges doing business in Mexico from my perspective and my experience. I will mention some key points if you want to import, export, or install facilities in Mexico. And at the end, I will mention how I think we can make you easier the process to get in the Mexican market. Okay, well, in Mexico, we have a lot of industries related to the healthcare sector. We work in the case of QBD Mexico. We work for the pharmaceutical, human, and veterinary industries, for the APs, the medical devices, biopharmaceuticals, biologics, hospitals, raw materials producers, warehousing and logistics and healthcare of the healthcare products, clinical research and trials, biopharmaceuticals, generics and biosimilars, and ATMPs. All of these industries are right now in Mexico, and definitely the most important now is the pharmaceutical, human, and veterinary, and the medical devices. But the other industries are growing in a very fast way in the recent years here in Mexico, especially also the warehousing and logistics of healthcare products. We have we're working with the main companies that brings this kind of services for the healthcare industry, and because some recent modifications to our laws, now it's not necessary to have a plant in Mexico to distribute products. There is only necessary to have a warehouse. So that is why this kind of companies are growing in Mexico. There are three main companies for these activities, which are Maipo, Nadro, and Farmacias Guadalajara here in Mexico. So, well, this is the kind of industries that you can find in Mexico, and also many of them are potentialized because of the nearshoring effect. It's important that if you want to come to Mexico to make business or to put some facilities in Mexico, to know some of the main important organizations that we have. The first one is the Secretaría de Salud, which is the Ministry of Health. Second one is the COFEPRIS, is the Federal Commission for Protection Against Sanitary Risks, and is part of the Ministry of Health. This COFEPRIS is in charge of the GMP regulations and verification audits to put sanctions to the company. Is responsible of the pharma and technovigilance, and also for the registration of products. That is an obligatory part of these activities. Also, there is the Pharmacopeia, Mexican Pharmacopeia, which also have a special supplement of dedicated to warehouses. The COFEPRIS and the Mexican Pharmacopeia puts the lines, the rules in which all the companies that works on the healthcare sector and also foods and other related industries must have to work. There is also the Canifarma. Canifarma is the National Chamber of Pharmaceutical Industry, also works for medical devices, and is one of the most important organisms which have influence in the way the legislation is conducted in Mexico. There is also the National College of QFB, National College of Chemical Pharmaceutical Biologists of Mexico, which puts together the most of the pharmaceutical professionals in Mexico that works for the healthcare industries. There is the Mexican Pharmaceutical Association, or Asociación Farmacéutica Mexicana, the AMID, Mexican Association of Innovative Industries of Medical Devices, ANAFAM, Mexican Association of Manufacturers of Medicines, and also ISP Mexico affiliate, in which I am the vice president and former president. Is the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering. All this organization is important to know and to start participating with them if you wanted to put a company here in Mexico. And also these organizations gives you good relationships and networking with the main actors in the sector. Also, there are many Mexican official standards that we use to be in compliance with the regulations. The Mexican official standards means NOM. NOM is the acronym for Mexican official standards. And we have many Mexican official standards for many good practices. The main one for the pharmaceutical industry is the NOM 059, the 059. Then we have the 241 for medical devices, the 164 for drugs, the 259 for cosmetics, the 073 for stability of drugs and medicines, the 173 for interchangeability of medicines and its modification, the 249 for the sterile mixtures, 257 for biotechnologic medicines, the 137 for labeling of medical devices, 240 for installation and operation of technovigilance, 220 for installation and operations of pharmacovigilance, and the Pharmacopeia itself. The Pharmacopeia, even this is a big book, is also an official standard and is the reference for the analysis and some specialized activities in the healthcare sector. I mentioned all these official standards because in some moment this will be the reference for you guys when you try to put facilities or a company dedicated to the healthcare sector in Mexico. After the presentation, Wim will share this same presentation with you. And in this PowerPoint, you can find the direct links for every one of all these documents. So you can find it easily after the presentation. Well, and talking about the industry in Mexico, well, just to mention some figures, Mexico exports to the U.S. market is 165 of the pharmaceutical and APA products designated as critical by the International and Trade Administration. 165 from about 320, something like that, is more than the half of these products. Also, Mexico is the second largest market in Latin America and the fifth worldwide. Talking about healthcare industry. In Mexico, we have at least until our last census, which was on 2019, 837 economic units of manufacture of pharmaceutical products. Noteworthy are in Mexico City, Jalisco, and the state of Mexico, which are locations of Mexico. We are expecting during this year, maybe 2 or 3 months more, that the new census of the healthcare sector industry will be released, and now the Canifarma is in the process of to prepare the data to be presented. So once this data will be released, surely the embassy will find this information and share with you. Which are the main states recipients of foreign direct investment in Mexico? Well, there are Mexico City with the 60%. It is the state of Mexico with 30%, Jalisco 10%, Morelos 6%, Baja California 3%, and other states 8%. It's just a reference on how is the foreign investment distributed in Mexico. Well, talking about the opportunities that you can find in Mexico, the first one is that the size of the population that we have and the healthcare system needs that we actually have. According with the Mexican National Institute of Statistics and Geography, which is the INEGI, from January to June 2022, Mexico's main premature death causes were heart diseases, diabetics, heart diseases with 30.6%, diabetics with 27.6%, malignant tumors with 11%, influenza and pneumonia 6%, liver disease with 5.8%, cerebrovascular disease 3%, homicides and accidents 10%, and pulmonary disease 6%. Another opportunity that we have is the access, as been mentioned, to very important markets. The nearshoring, mainly because of the NAFTA and USMCA, the markets of US and Canada, and we have a good position to access those markets. As also been mentioned, this ongoing the update of the global agreement between Mexico and the European Union. We have medical and health tourism. Our population is getting aging with chronic diseases increasing and new healthcare needs. The emerging therapeutic areas and advanced therapy medicines is a good opportunity to invest in Mexico or to take your products here to Mexico. Mexico is also a good point to jump to Central and South America because of the similarities between our markets. And Mexico have good regulations about intellectual property, but not also with this, but also we have good regulations in comparison with all the Latin America region. Our Mexican regulations are the most advanced in comparison with the rest of Latin America. And this is because our incorporation to the ICH and the PICS initiatives. Well, about the opportunities, the best states, according with my analysis, to install facilities for pharmaceuticals, the best states are Querétaro, Jalisco, State of Mexico, Mexico City, and Puebla. As you can see, the only state that is not close to the center of Mexico is Jalisco, which is in the coast of Mexico. And this analysis is taking into account the communications, the security, the infrastructure, availability of personnel to hire, similar established industry, and availability of industrial parks. In all Mexico, as Bim said, we actually are facing a problem of security because of the cartels and the criminalistic index we have in Mexico. But even with that, the most secure states for pharmaceutical industry in which you can put your installations are those states that I mentioned. On the other hand, for medical devices and biotechnologies, the best states to put facilities are Baja California, Baja California, Nuevo León, which is Querétaro, Jalisco, State of Mexico, Mexico City, and Puebla. On the other states that I didn't mention in Mexico, there are some other problems related with also communications, security mainly, infrastructure, availability of personnel to hire, similar established industry, and availability of industrial parks. The availability of personnel to hire is a very important question to take in account, because in other states, it's not easier to find people that is related to this kind of industry and who wants to move to who wants to move to those other states to work. So that is an important question to take in account. Some challenges doing business in Mexico. Well, we have a slow regulatory process to make modifications to adapt to the new therapies and cutting-edge technologies and medicines. The process with the regulatory agency is slow and some kind of bureaucratic in the regulatory procedures. The approval will delay for medicines and active pharmaceuticals ingredients from months, even for years. It depends on the kind of products. There is also some regulatory certainty, talking about that the COFEPRIS is taking actions about how to handle these gaps on the actualization and modification of our regulations. But remember that we are right now on the elections time, and many of these initiatives will depend on how the economical aspects will evolve in Mexico. The shortage of medicines related with the government's purchase processes. At the beginning of this government, there was a shortage of medicines because some decisions by part of the government focused to stop some levels of corruption in COFEPRIS, but it was not well managed. So the result was a shortage of many important medicines. This is also an important question to take in account. Also, the provision of raw materials. In Mexico, we don't have a strong infrastructure to manufacturing of raw materials. The most of the raw materials comes from India and China. Even USA is a big producer of raw materials. In Mexico, is more affordable to buy those raw materials from Asia and than in USA. So if you wanted to put any production facilities that need some raw materials, it's important that you take into account the prices from USA, or to have to buy it by part of companies and in India or in China. Also in Mexico, we have a problem of the counterfeit medicines. There is a problem of falsification of medicines. Sometimes the criminals took medicines from the trash directly and sells in markets or in on the streets, or sometimes there are guys that are falsificating directly the products. But I think the coffee priest is making a good job on the vigilance, on detection and reporting of all these falsificated products. So, but well, that is another challenge in Mexico. I put this question: is an option to sell the Mexican government? Well, even the Mexican government with the healthcare ministry is the biggest provider of medicines for the Mexican population. It's very difficult to enter to the Mexican government, and the prices are that the government pays are very, very low. So, well, I think if you wanted to come to Mexico, your strategy will not go to be will not to be focused on the Mexican government, but with the private initiative. The big hospitals and the companies that can afford the prices of these new technologies and therapies and medicines that you will take to Mexico are in the private initiative. So this is another challenge and point to take into account. Also in Mexico, you need to have companies here in Mexico that will help you to the bioequivalence studies. And unfortunately, in Mexico, we have many companies that can bring you this kind of services. I think they are not enough at this moment, but it's also a growing market. As I mentioned, in Mexico, we have elections time on June 2024. We will have the greatest elections in Mexico, in which we will vote for president, the Senate, deputies, and governors. So it's also important to take into account this date, because after this date, we will have a landscape about how will be the politics and the government in Mexico for the next 6 years. Also, the language barriers. In my experience, as a part of a Belgian company, the most difficult thing was the language barriers. In many companies, in most of the companies, the communication is part of the complications that we will have. But especially, I think, talking about the companies, the Belgian companies and the Mexican companies, it's important to be sure about the language barriers. At the beginning of QBD Mexico, for me, was very interesting to see that with our Mexican English and the Belgian English, we tried to communicate in a very difficult way, and this causes many misunderstandings, many misconceptions of many things. And it's important that you plan, if you're planning to be in Mexico, that you have people in Mexico, people who understand the language characteristics of the Mexicans, and also people who speak very fluent English. So that people can communicate with you easily in the not only in the technical aspects, but also in the business aspects. And also, I think also another challenge to doing business in Mexico is the idiosyncrasy of Mexican. One thing that I detected with my colleagues in Belgium is that sometimes you may assume that the Mexican people is like to talk with the Spaniard people or something like that, and that's not the same. Even we share the same language, the idiosyncrasy of the Mexicans are quite different from the people from Spain. And I put here a list of many things that are part of our idiosyncrasy. please take it in count because it will make you understand many things about your relation with people in Mexico. And many of these points are partially sourced by OECD. The OECD in English. Something like, okay, well, very smart people, but also we are proud, we're friendly, but also we are nationalist. We love parties. We're also suspicious with the foreign people. We have a good humor sense, but commonly we had our feelings. We are conservative sometimes, and open-minded in other times. We are proud of our traditions, also disordered, intuitive, hard workers, but not always more productive, not work lovers, sociable, resilient. We have low engagement generally with the work, procrastinators, flexible and adaptable, not that punctual as you in Europe, inventive, family, friends, and love over the. We put family, friends, and love over the work, passionate, creative. We think the things too hard, irreflexibly generous. Sometimes we avoid ridiculousness. We have a very special slang and love the food, especially tacos. But well, all these things it's important that you also take in count because, as I mentioned, you need to have people in Mexico to handle your business in Mexico and to understand also the way of thinking of Europe. And with all these points, maybe you can understand better how works the people in Mexico. And these are generalities. This doesn't mean that all the people in Mexico have all these things in this idiosyncrasy, but it can gives you a guide about how to make business and work with people in Mexico. Well, some key points to import and export in Mexico. Please consider the sanitary registration of the products in front of the coffee press. The coffee press needs a sanitary registration for every product you want to trade or sell in Mexico. Consider the patents and trademarks registry, the intellectual property. As I mentioned, now you don't need to have a plant, but you need to have a warehouse at least to sell products. Consider the warehousing and logistics. If you don't have, if you will not have your own distribution infrastructure, you need to hire some company that gives you the warehousing and logistics. Consider the import permits. The certificate of GMPs issued by coffee press is a must. If you're planning to export to USA, you must fulfill the FDA regulations, and also you will be audited here in Mexico by part of the FDA. Wait for the elections period in Mexico and be informed about the different candidates. If you want to install production facilities, design it according with the current GMPs. The quality management system is critical in the GMP regulations. Be prepared, not only you in Europe, but also be sure that your people here in Mexico is prepared more than the authorities. One of the problems that came with this actual government that is now finishing its period was that this government decided to change the most of the auditors and verificators of the coffee press at the beginning of this government, and in some moment many of the new auditors came with low experience or with low technical skills, and it causes many difficulties for the pharma industry. Now this gap is almost closed, but it's important that your people and your people in Mexico be prepared about the Mexican regulations more than the authorities. Also taking account that Mexico began to stop being a low salary country, but still being a low salary. It is because there were many modifications by part of the government about the salaries for the Mexican people. Get local advice for the enterprise. Look for people here in Mexico who can help you in this enterprise. Know the Mexican idiosyncrasy. Is not enough the remote management. I told you as part of the experience. Okay, it's understandable that you will not fly to Mexico every month, but it's important that you have the correct people here in Mexico and that you have a continuous meeting with that people, knowing this Mexican idiosyncrasy to better manage your business here in Mexico. You need people here. If you have local suppliers or allies, consider to improve them. Maybe you can develop local suppliers or local allies for your business. And again, wait for the elections period in Mexico and be informed about the different candidates.
Hello, Jaime. Sorry, can you round up your presentation, please?
Round up.
Yes, because I mean, it was foreseen 20 minutes, but you're already 35 minutes.
Oh, sorry, sorry. These are just three slides.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, how we can help you to make easier to get into the Mexican market? Well, we can help you preparing the quality management system, validation and qualification for your new facilities, process systems, and equipment. Reviewing and adapting to the Mexican market the user requirements for your new facilities, equipments, systems, and critical systems. Finding the right suppliers, logistics, warehousing, analytics, engineering, all those kind of suppliers that you will need to put your facilities in Mexico. We can help you in the recruitment and selection of the right personnel, interviews and evaluations previous to hiring. It is very important the position of the health manager or responsable sanitario, how we call it in Mexico. This is key of if you wanted to put a plant in Mexico. And also we can help you preparing the documental support for the compliance. Bring you intellectual property advisory, enabling you in relationship with the main organizations in the sector, making networking with the National Chamber of Pharmaceutical Industry. We are part of the Cani Pharma. We're the only kind of company of our kind in Cani Pharma. And support finding the right people to help you introducing your company in Mexico. We can link you with the Biomedical Engineering Cluster of Jalisco and Baja Medical Devices Cluster. We are also part of these clusters in the interpretation and support in the implementation of the Mexican regulatory requirements. And we can help you supporting and finding and evaluating the logistics and warehousing alternatives in the market. And the last slide. We can link you with the other companies, suppliers, organizations, hospitals that will help you to create a local ecosystem for your company. I think this will be key for your success to create as happened with the other countries, to create a local ecosystem for your Belgian company here in Mexico. Also, we can help you provide advice to your board of representatives in Mexico about the idiosyncrasy and particularities of the Mexican market, the regulations, the political, social, and business warnings, and scouting for your facilities and locations. In resume, we can help you becoming your eyes and ears in Mexico. And that is all. Sorry for having to take more time than expected. My name is Jaime Castro. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jaime, for this extensive presentation, and sorry for the rush at the end.
Don't worry.
Yes, let me introduce now our second speaker from Mexico. Our second speaker is Mr. Iñas Tuypens. Mr. Tuypens is Belgian. He is originally from Eeklo, and he lives already more than 24 years. He works and lives already more than 24 years in Mexico. He was originally sent to Mexico as a business development manager for Belgian oil company Petrofina, which now is Total Energies. And after 15 years with Total, he created his own company, Dantien, to promote and represent some Belgian and Dutch companies in Mexico. And then 2 years ago, he made a drastic career change and became general manager of Biokraft, which is Mexico's biggest private tissue bank. So please, Iñas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Wim. Thank you, Jaime. Jaime is a good friend of mine, so we see each other a lot because this is a very small world. Let me share my screen. Can you just confirm if you see the screen, please?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Perfect. So I just well, hello to everybody above all at the other side. So my name is Iñas. I'm as Wim presented me, I'm Belgian, from the originally from the Flemish part. Thank you, Wim, for the short presentation. I will go through my presentation a little bit faster as programmed, since we are getting a little bit short of time. The first part in the presentation, you will see that it is in Spanish. That's because I just took some general information and from the market, which actually already Wim and also Jaime talked about. So I will go very fast through that part, not to focus on that part. Most of all, I wanted to talk about what we are doing as a company and the opportunities, and insist from my side that even if a lot of parts might seem, and definitely from Belgium out, as negative things and risks, I think there is a lot of opportunity in the market. So I would like to focus on that part. Definitely, yeah, more or less that. So I will talk later about Biokraft. I will just give a very, very short, because we already talked about that, general political overview, which we already talked about. Actually, in 4 parts. The 40, it's the what we call here, or the government is called the fourth transformation. So in their last year of their government, which is actually the last, well, it is the last year, but because the elections are in June, then the health sector, the election about this year, and the final considerations. As said, I'll go very fast about this, not to take more time. I'll even skip the first part. Interesting to know is that as a general information, the inflation in the country has been in February, but this has been relatively stable of 4.40%. As Wim also said, the how do you call it? The money change between the dollar and also the euro, but this is a dollar, has been quite stable and with a very strong position of the Mexican peso. The Mexican economy generally is slowing down. That has been like that in the last couple of years. I repeat, these are all like sound, and they're all like negative parts. But I think that the positive part will come afterwards. There is a very high financial cost with Pemex, which is the local, the national oil company. Today it is mentioned as the most the company worldwide with most debt. In the last trimester, in the last 3 months of last year, their income still, or again, lowered with about 27%. And one of the parts that the government is looking at to get more income is the impuestos, is the taxes. There is a a huge problem with people and companies paying taxes in the company. So the government is looking at how to improve that. The health sector, I think this is the positive part. I think that was mentioned in a certain part. This is in dollars, but but not to say that it's the same in euros. We know that it's not the same. But actually, the health sector in last year was about $11 billion. It is expected to have an increase in the next. This is the numbers in 5 years. A potential of 34% towards 4%. Actually, the health sector has been growing in about as a stable, more or less stable 8% a year, and it is expected that that is going to keep on growing with it more or less an 8%. So that is the expectation that as a Belgian company you might have, or you can look at. And what was mentioned already, in the medical devices, Mexico is one of the biggest producer and exporters worldwide. And in this case, well, at the 5th place in export. I'll skip the rest of the part. Well, the election, there are actually only 2 female candidates. I would say, but this is a personal opinion, right? The economy hasn't been improving in the last 5 to 6 years, and which has, of course, a complication for all the companies, national companies and international companies. However, this change of government will have to make changes. So there is Claudia Sheinbaum, who possibly, according to the numbers, would be the next president. She is the follow-up of the current president, which people would say, okay, well, that is not going to bring a lot of changes. However, we expect that in the health politics, in the energetic part, in the security part, and in the fiscal part, they will have to make changes, which will improve somehow the global future of the company, of course, but of the country. And then there's Xochitl Galvez, which is the second one in line. We might have a surprise in the elections, but the numbers today say that we probably will not have a surprise. Anyway, if she would win the elections, in the 5 parts that are mentioned there, in the social politics, she cannot change a lot because that has been the focus of the former president. But in health, in energetic security, and the fiscal part, in that case, she will make a lot of difference and that is my opinion, which would be possibly a better option for the country. However, even if Claudia Sheinbaum wins, there will be positive changes compared with the last years. That's my personal opinion. I will skip this part because we already talked about that actually. So actually, this is like, what can we expect for this year and the next years? It sounds like a difficult situation, but it's a stable situation, which as a businessman here in Mexico, that is a good part. That is a good position to work on, to be able to in a stable position. So let's shortly talk about Biocraft. As we mentioned, we are a tissue bank. I just want to explain what is a tissue bank. Basically, I think I can just go to that part and then just explain a little bit more. We are a leading company. We are the leading company in Mexico in biotechnology. We distribute, we manufacture and distribute skeletal muscle implants to contribute to the social well-being, quality of the life of the patients. Our company exists since 18 years in the country, and we have operations. We have a plant in Mexico City, and we have sales in all Latin America, and we're working actually on the European market now. We make bone and skin tissue implants with cutting-edge technology, which are made available to surgeons and their patients. Basically, just to explain what we do exactly, we depend on donors. As everybody knows, there's donors of organs. When people donate organs, some of them, this is Mexican regulation. This is not automatic like in Europe or in Belgium, for example. Some of the people who donate organs also donate tissue. Tissue, basically, for us, it's bone and skin. So we have a team of medics, of doctors, who go to the hospitals to recover, when there is a donation, the parts of the bones and parts of the skin. That material, to call it like that, goes to our plant, is put on hold by a quality system to go through our quality system. Once it is approved, it goes to our manufacturing process to make medical devices for implants. Medical devices for implants. 95% of our implants go to the orthopedical part. 5% of the implants go, or the medical devices goes to the dental part. So that's more or less what we do. The difficult part, I would say, here is the donation part. The statistics in Mexico say that the donation, literally 0.02% of the people donate, that has to be approved by the family members once the person is deceased. So that is a complicated legal aspect. And of that 0.02% of the people who donate, only 10% gives tissue, which is bone and skin. So that makes our business relatively, that's our bottleneck, to say, for the growth. Our mission is to distribute biological implants with a high quality standard and be the best alternative for the surgeons. And to be, as the vision is, to be a world-class company, leaders in obtaining, processing, developing, and distributing the orthopedical implants. I would like to talk about these values, which Jaime also talked about. At the end, for me, and I would say for you guys in a possible future, the key is the people. As Jaime, as a Mexican, right, talks clearly and openly about how the Mexican is. I think, well, every country has their advantages and their way of being and their way of working. My experience in these 24 years in Mexico and the last 2 years in the medical devices, in the health sector, is that Mexico does have very good qualified people. It is with the will of working. They are hardworking workers, and it's a question of finding the right ones, and they are available. So that's a question of finding the right people. I would go to the realization, the third part. I'm going fast to do the presentation, not to get more extended in the time. So we promote intellectual and personal growth of our collaborators to strengthen the foundation of our organization. As I say, the people are the key of success. I think that's not only here in Mexico, of course, that is everywhere where we work. And of course, the commitment, we do our work with passion and discipline. Discipline is definitely a very important part of what you need in your organization, but passion is important. And definitely, if you work in the health sector and in our sector, it's maybe even more emphasized because of the donor part, right? So the passion helps because part of our production also goes not also only to sales, but it also goes to donation. We do a lot of donation also, giving back to the people basically. As I said, well, our manufacture process is the recovery. That's the part of the donors into the hospitals. Our team goes to the hospitals to recover. The donor reception in the plant, it goes to quality. It's released by quality, and then there's we call it the cutting process, but it's not all. It's cutting, milling, it's adapting the product, which is very specific because our raw material, compared with, I would say, 99% of the processes, our raw material always is different. It's not like Coke that or whatever product that you have exactly the same ingredients to get to the final product. So that's a difference. Then we go to incubation measurement. We have a final process of irradiation, and then we have several type of products which keep on being frozen products or lyophilized products. I think this is part of important, I think, for everybody. In this case, of course, in our company, we are aligned with FDA in the States. The third one, it's MTF, it's Musculoskeletal Transplant Foundation in the States, which we have very good relationship with. And there's the AATB, which is the American Association of Tissue Banks. We are aligned with all their regulation. However, the important part, it's like our boss in Mexico, that's what Jaime also said, basically it's COFEPRIS, right? Which is the Comisión Federal para la Protección contra Riesgos Sanitarios. It's the Federal Commission for Protection of Health risks, right? They are the regulatory authority in Mexico. To be able to work in Mexico, you need, of course, your GMP, which is the good manufacturing practices licensing. That is a must to be able to work in Mexico. And of course, every product needs their sanitary registration, which is a process which has to go to COFEPRIS. As Jaime mentioned, COFEPRIS is a government organization which not always works. It works well, but generally it works slower than expected. So that is a critical line into being able to advance in the market. If you say, okay, tomorrow we would like to start to sell a product as your own company or with a representation in the company to work together with another company like Jaime or like even us, if that would be a possibility, or with other companies, the time that you are able to sell in the market will depend on COFEPRIS, and that will depend on their timing and also the right. If you know the right people, maybe things can speed up sometime. But that's like a bottleneck for any new investments or advanced sales in the market. This is also what Jaime talked about. In our case, of course, we have our ISO 13485, which is the quality management system for medical devices. We have our quality system approved by COFEPRIS, also for the medical devices, and we follow the AATB standards, which are the American standards for, in this case, for tissue banking. I will go through this. And basically, I would like to. We have a lot of collaboration with institutions, with universities. It is a question of with hospitals, of course. We have a lot of all our donor programs are within the legal mark, of course. So we have donor contracts with the hospitals, and at the other side, at the commercial side, which is the part that I wanted to speed up a little bit to go and talk about that part. We have our certifications, and not to talk that much about us. Yeah, of course. Well, this is about us, right? But as a company, and I think for me to talk with you guys is that, well, this is a company which exists since 20 years in the market. We are, in this case, well, the only ones in Latin America to have a registration, and we're audited by FDA. The only tissue bank. Okay, there's other companies who comply with that. We have specialized in human capital. I would repeat, that is also what Jaime said, but in another way. But the key is the human capital. It's to work with the right people who have the right vision, the right connections within the market. That is very important. We have, of course, world-class quality standards, which I know that all of the companies that I know that you are online, or at least some of them that I checked their website, your websites. In Belgium, we do have the same quality standards. We have some health records in the company, and we have also a patented product with nano particulars. Well, we have up till today, which is like 1 month old, but we have processed almost, but more than 2,800 donors, which is really a big goal that we're reaching. We have several specialties in complaints. We get to 0.02% of complaints. We have almost 50,000 implants donated. As I say, well, this is a part that we can do from our company out. We work today in 8 countries, and we're extending towards other areas, more Latin American areas, countries. And as I said, we're working already on entering and on the registration, because it has to do also at the other side with registration. And we have had 0 contamination, which is very important. Well, this is just about our products.
Sorry to interrupt, Ignace. Can you also round up, please?
Yes, no problem. What I would
you're going over your time.
Yes, I know. Okay, so basically, what I would like to say is that I think that for your companies, that there are definitely opportunities in the market. You can expect in the next couple of years an average of an 8% growth. That's our estimation, also the official numbers. We are, as a company, we are very sure that the opportunities they are in the market. We are actually going to put a new plant. We have that plant for in 2 years, in 2026. So we really believe in the future of the country, and of the medical devices and pharmaceutical part. As I mentioned before, the 11 billion import of pharmaceutical and medical devices, 50% more or less is about pharmaceutical products, and 50% is about medical devices. If you take these numbers and you look at it as with the growth numbers of 8% a year, I think that's very interesting. I do think that depending on the specialty products, that the private markets are, of course, somehow more interesting. However, the amounts of volume of business that the government represent is also really interesting. In our case, for example, we sell about 30% of our sales goes to government at, I would call it, decent pricing, which depends on the type of products that you work on and the service that you can give. If you can prove a differential compared with the competition, you can get a decent pricing also with the government. It all depends on if you can work with the right people at the right moment. So I think that's about it. Generally, I would like to say that there are definitely opportunities. There will be my number and my email. If there would be any doubt or any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always happy to help my country fellowmen. But I'm convinced that there's a lot of positive opportunities in Mexico. Thank you, everybody. Gracias, Wim. Thank you, Wim.
Yes, thank you, Inyas, also for also your extensive presentation. Then finally, our last speaker of today is Mr. Johan Lecoq. He is a business development and internationalization manager of the health tech cluster of Flanders, Medvia. And before Mr. Lecoq joined Medvia, he worked for DSP Valley in Flanders, and he also worked for Dutch companies TomTom and Philips. Please, Mr. Lecoq, go ahead. Hello.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, and do you see me? Yes, okay.
Yes,
Okay,
can you put it on presenter mode, please?
Okay, I thought I did it. Sorry. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning in Mexico, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to give a short introduction to Medvia. As I only have minus 30 minutes, I will try to keep it very short and maybe skip some slides. This presentation is not about Mexico, so it's about the health tech cluster in Flanders. My name is Johan, and I'm mainly responsible for internationalization within Medvia. And Medvia is what I call a spearhead cluster in Flanders. Is in fact the last one, which was launched in September 21. And it's a public-private partnership, meaning in fact that we are also supported structurally by the Flemish government. And we are mainly industry-driven, and our main objective is in fact to support and stimulate innovation in the ecosystem. And for that, we have a strong focus on the main technology domains in I would say in the health domain. Meaning biotechnology, medical technologies, digital technologies, because we all know that innovation is mainly happening on the crossover of these technology domains. This slide I just borrowed from Flanders Investment and Trade, and I often also use it when presenting to foreign companies that are coming to Flanders. Showing that Flanders, of course, is in the center of Europe. We are a very small region with a high density of population and a high expenditure of GDP, of R&D, in fact. So we are as strong almost as the US. So we have a strong ecosystem, and we have many medical life sciences companies being part of it. And I would advise to all the companies now listening, if they are not already on this platform, they should do, because this is a possibility that the Mexican organizations, whoever is looking for you, can find you. And what you can also see on this slide is in fact that where the main, I would say, life sciences medical hubs are present in Flanders. The Flemish ecosystem, as I said, we are strong. We are strong in clinical trials. We are, I think, at this moment, even second, if we talk about the biotech market capitalization after Denmark, which is #1 in Europe. And we have strong research. And this is all important, of course, for companies here, and if also companies from abroad want to come here. These are all strong points. We also, as an organization, have a mission, and what you can see is that we are strongly mainly industry driven and want to stimulate, in fact, innovation. And how do we do this? And this is very important, is that we have, in fact, mainly two pillars. One is supporting access to finance, both talking about subsidies, funding, but also access to private money. And a second pillar is that we have an offer of bespoke services to support our companies. This is a complex slide showing our governance, but what we want to show is in fact that we involve all stakeholders to set up the services we deliver to our members. And we involve, you can see it at the left side, we involve care organizations, hospitals, even policymakers, all our members, which are in fact industry, research, hospitals, and we also look to the context. And we take all that into account to define our services, to define, in fact, how we spend funding and support funded projects. Talking about our services, this slide is trying to give an overview of what type of services we want to deliver to our members. Going from bottom left, we talk about supporting growth and in general, growing the company, helping access to new technologies, helping with legislation, reimbursement, and we strongly collaborate with the different local hubs in Flanders. We support matchmaking between all stakeholders, companies, academics, healthcare organizations, and again, also there we try to collaborate with other organizations active in Flanders. As said before, we support also by providing or helping to get access to funding and to private money. And the last part is in fact also the reason why we are here in this webinar. We also support on the internationalization, because we know that Flanders is small, and as high-tech companies, we have to internationalize. We have to look abroad, both for collaboration, for export, whatever. Maybe what's also worthwhile to mention is that although Flanders is a small region and we are a cluster organization in Flanders, what we also try to do is to build very strong networks in Europe, connecting to, I would say, partner organizations, also clusters in the different European countries. And as such, we are also able to offer to our members a very enlarged network, I would say. So to help them, to support them on several aspects, can be collaboration projects, can be business, but this is one of the ways we try to support internationalization on the European scale. And as a last slide, we are organizing, of course, during the whole year, several events, workshops, whatever, trainings. But I just want to highlight our two main flagship events we organize every year, which is one is the Life Sciences Conference, which is up till now always in November. The date still has to be defined, which is called Science for Health. And the other one is the Investor Summit, where we connect startups, scale-ups with private investors. And for this year, it's already scheduled for the 9th till 11th of December, and it's taking place in Bruges. But you can always go to our website to see all our events. And this is my last slides. And I hope this was short enough.
Yes, it was short enough, Johan. Thank you very much. I see that in the chat there were some remarks, but there was not really a question in the chat. So I don't know. Yeah, we lost some participants in the. So I don't know if one of the remaining participants has any question for our speakers. So far, no questions. So maybe I will do a question to Jaime and to Iñaz. Is there any subsector within the healthcare and life science sector you see particular opportunities for our exporters and for our companies that want to become active in the health sector? Are there any subsectors that are of particular, that offer special opportunities? That's my question for Jaime or for Iñaz.
Iñaz?
I was going to say the same, Jaime. Yeah. No, I think that I don't have any specific subsector or product or service that I think that that I know that there's an opportunity. However, I think that is a question of if there is a differential in. Sorry about that. If your product or your service has a differential compared with products in the national market, for sure there are opportunities. So I'm very convinced about that. It's a question of, I would say, well, probably through you, Wim, or to us, to Jaime or to me, but it would be basically to Wim, and to Wim can channel the contacts to say, okay, well, we have this product specifically, and maybe we can check, like also Jaime proposed in his presentation, what is the possibility within the market. But I went through the several web pages that of the companies that you send us, Wim, and I do think that a couple of them might have some opportunities in the market. So that would be like my answer. I don't have any specific market, but if you have a differential compared with what you know within your market, because I think that all the companies that are connected or that are or were connected, they already work in several export markets. So that their experience is that what is their differential with your competition? And I'm very sure if you have a differential, there must be opportunities within the market.
Okay.
I see an opportunity, especially in my case, for the ATM piece. I think this as a new technologies, and with the specific needings for Mexico and the potential capabilities of business looking to the USA, I think the ATM piece will be a good opportunity. And considering the growth of the potential growth of the market in Mexico for the healthcare sector, the transportation and warehousing of the medicines and medical devices also will be a good opportunity. This is, from my perspective.
Okay. I want to open the floor again for any questions from our audience in Flanders. Okay, so it looks like there are no questions, so we can round up our webinar of today. I want to thank the speakers and also our audience in Flanders. And as I mentioned, if please do not hesitate to contact our office in Mexico to present your product and your technology. And we will consult, we will look for partners for you, and also consult with Jaime and Iñaz about the opportunities for your particular product and service in Mexico. Thank you.